Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RV Canucks podcast. Today, we're tackling a topic that every RVer has to face at some point: repair costs and maintenance. Over the past 10 years, we've had our fair share of wear and tear on our rig. And in this episode, we'll be breaking down the most common RV repairs, what you can expect to pay, and sharing some real numbers from our own experiences. And stick around till the end because we have some exciting news about our upcoming camping plans, plus the big reveal of our RV Canucks Grand Tour 2025. Let's dive in. Episode 55 starts right now. Hi, Dan.
Hi, honey.
Welcome to episode 55.
I'm really excited for this one. I feel like this is a bit of a nerdy episode about repair costs and maintenance and our own experience, but it's one I wanted to do for a while, and I've been working on it for a little while. So thank you, everybody, for humoring me on this, but I hope it's really informative.
And I'm really excited for this episode because I don't have to talk that much. And
Yeah.
my voice is a little straggly today.
Yeah. So just like the last episode, I think Melina's going to let me fly a little solo, but I'm under close supervision. That makes me feel a bit better. So, because I don't know if that last one was my best work, but I'm still excited to do this one. So we're going to talk about some common repair costs and maintenance costs. And the aim here is not to give you a specific dollar value. The aim is to let you know whether you have a 2-figure, a 3-figure, or a 4-figure repair. And by that, I mean, is it going to cost you $50? Is it going to cost you $300? Or is it going to cost you $1,000? So really, this is just intended to be directionally accurate, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I probably should just set the stage here, though. Everybody's RV is a little bit different. So some things to consider if you're, listening with your partner or you're driving down the road here. Do you have one slide or do you have multiple slides? Or maybe you have no slides. So that's going to be a factor. Do you have 1 axle, 2 axles, 3 axles? Because that means you have 2 tires, 4 tires, 6 tires, 6 sets of brakes. All of those things are important. So maybe I'm going to give you our repair cost based on a 1 slide out trailer with 2 axles, 4 tires. You guys can kind of do the rough mental math in your head to figure out what that might mean for your own trailer. And then there's some other stuff in here. I would think solar charging, like do you have a really fancy solar panel on the top or you just have a battery on the front of the trailer? So those kind of things. So we'll tell you what ours were, and then you'll just kind of have to do the mental gymnastics in your head to maybe make it fit for your situation. So there's probably a couple of tips here just before we dive in. Make sure that you choose a dealer who does service. So you can go and buy the cheapest trailer and they'll deliver it really quickly, but eventually it's going to need some service. Give some thought to a dealer who does service because their knowledge is invaluable. It's going to get you on the road quicker. You're going to feel more comfortable. It's going to allow for a more enjoyable RV lifestyle experience.
But I have a question. What if somebody buys their RV at a dealer that is not near their home, but they need to take it for service near them?
So one thing I'll say is maybe think about if you're going to batch your service. So if you need to get new tires and you want to get your brakes adjusted and maybe you want to have the bearings done, then maybe you want to save that for the end of the season when you're going to get it winterized. Although I'd probably say in that particular instance, bring it in at the beginning of the summer, give them lots of lead time, come in and get all of that work done at once. So to the extent that you can batch your service, that's a good idea. And hey, I get it. If you get a flat tire or blown water pump, that's not always easy. If they're a little bit further away or maybe you've moved somewhere else, just be upfront with the dealer. Maybe you bought your trailer used. Maybe you purchased it from another dealer and you're in this area now. Just build a relationship with them, which kind of ties into my next point, which is be fair with the dealer. Be upfront with them. Don't come in and say, hey, oh my God, I got a flat tire. I need my trailer next weekend. If you don't need your trailer next weekend, say, hey, I don't need my trailer next weekend. My next trip's not for 2 or 3 weeks. When do you think you could squeeze me in? If you're more accommodating to them, they're probably going to have an easier time helping you and be a lot more friendly. And so I think this comes down to we've all been, or lots of us have been at the airport and somebody goes up to the counter and loses their mind because their flight got canceled. And the person who comes up nice and quiet and says, hey, I get it's a tough day. You didn't cancel the flight. Help me out. That person's probably going to have an easier time. So if you can be flexible and fair with the dealer, that's probably your best course of action, your best way to manage the relationship.
I think on that point too, when you are that customer and when you are very fair with the dealer, when something pops up that is an emergency, you're more likely to be given the grace of rapid help
Yeah,
in that case, right?
absolutely. And I'm going to go into a couple of things here, and you're going to find out there's actually some things in here we got done for free. We did our big trip to Key West, and just being flexible with them, I said, listen, we're going to Florida. We're doing a big trip. I know everybody would feel good if, the tires are checked, the brakes are done, bearings are, just give it a good once over. We're not leaving for 3 more weeks. When would you like me to bring it in? And they said, hey, come on in, just drop it off. We'll get to it. We'll definitely have it done a week before your trip. And a week later, they had everything done, ready to go. And they were like, wanted to know about the trip and where we're going. And so that was kind of where us being casual and cool about it and thinking ahead got us out the door quicker. But I'll give a couple examples where some things were free.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing is, just remember, like, the dealer's got to keep the lights on. So maybe they're going to charge a couple extra dollars for something. Pick your battles, right? Because if you want to nickel and dime them over everything, they're going to subconsciously probably do that in return. And so just remember, they're running a business. They got to keep their lights on. Everybody there has a family and kids, and they want to have Christmas and pay their mortgage too. So let's just be reasonable with them. And that all just goes back to picking a good dealer who does good service work. And you can kind of see that because when you go in to look at a dealer, you can kind of size up how many service bays do they have, how big is their service department. Look, those little things you can kind of size up the first time you go in.
Yeah.
So I guess really in no particular order, we'll kind of dive into things here. This one's a little bit of an odd one. So your trailer has a breakaway cable, and the breakaway cable, if like catastrophe strikes and your trailer comes detached from the tow vehicle and the change brake, there's a breakaway cable there. And the whole idea of the breakaway cable is it snaps and it locks your trailer brakes and engages them. So it's a really important piece of equipment. I bet you most people don't even look at it. Ours was starting to get frayed. That one cost us $80. It's not a hard repair. I probably could have looked it up on YouTube, felt more comfortable about it, but I also wouldn't have known exactly which part to order. I would have had to go to the RV dealer anyway. So for $80, they got the part, they installed it, and I think they kind of were checking out some other work on, like, I think they were sizing up some tires for us and doing a couple other small repairs. So we kind of batched that in. That's a good example of batching it in. The next one, so there's something we aspire to in trailer life, and it's one of those fancy keypads where you kind of punch in the numbers. Yes. We have the old school like key, and we really wanted one of the fancy ones, and we're like kind of excited because our door handle broke and the lock wouldn't work, but we could still get in and out, and it wasn't a super urgent thing for us to repair. But we kind of came in at the end of the season, and I said, listen, could we get one of those fancy locks? And the guy's like, yeah, no problem. And I kind of think this was when we were having more supply chain problems with COVID. And I got a phone call back, and he's like, listen, it's really expensive. Like, it's so expensive, I don't even want to sell you the part. He goes, but I'll tell you what, I went in and I took a look at your lock and I fixed it for free. Mm-hmm. So he went in, took the whole lock assembly apart while he was doing a few other things, fixed the lock. We've not had a problem, 2 or 3 years since he's done that. And that's just a good example of a good dealer relationship and not being the person who comes in with your hair on fire.
Yeah.
So listen, I don't know what the fancy new locks cost because we got the old school lock and it was free. So who doesn't like free? We did have a city water leak. And that one was also free. I was a little bit more concerned about that one. I guess I feel like in retrospect, I probably should have dug into it a little bit deeper, except we hadn't gone on the road yet. I think Melina was out of town. I was trying to get the trailer ready for a trip near Mother's Day, and there was water everywhere. And something didn't feel right. And I had him come in and take a look at it with something else.
Water everywhere, specify.
So water came into the city water connection, so the hose is hooked up. I'm trying to flush the system for the summer to take out the antifreeze and whatnot, and it got in around the water pump and underneath the under storage of the trailer where you're going to keep like your leveling blocks and your hitch when you're not using it and stuff like that. So
in the industrial areas of the trailer.
Yeah, the industrial areas of the trailer. When I say everywhere, that includes on the driveway, on my feet. Probably a time when I was admittedly like a little bit stressed out and tired and just this is not the problem I wanted before we were supposed to go away. I know we kind of just said, listen, we're just not going to go away this weekend. And I think we're both okay with it. But long story short, when we did go in, they checked it out, they tightened something up, and it was another free repair just because we use the same place all the time. We drive probably, well, I take it there. It's probably around 40, 45, 50 minutes to bring it in. And we always get it winterized there at the end of the season. So there's another example of something that was free. Another thing I would say, and maybe people don't always think about this, is your slide out lube and seals. You can probably, like, honestly, this is not a hard one to do. It's $20 to $30. You can pick the stuff up at Home Hardware, Canadian Tire, and probably Walmart's got it. Um, it's basically a spray can, kind of looks just like a WD-40. You can do that one yourself. Probably just do it at the, couple times during the year just to check things out, make sure everything's functioning the way it could. There's no rips, tears, that kind of stuff. It's
And
not.
why that's important, and a lot of people don't do this, I find, or don't know that they should do this, is because the rubber, the seals on your slide out will dry out, they will crack,
Yeah.
they will become less pliable, right? And what this does is it essentially kind of oils them and protects them, UV protects them so that they stay nice and soft. And the problem is not so much when the trailer's used and the slide out's out, but it's what happens when the slide out is closed and you have bad weather, right? You want to prevent those leaks when you're not around the trailer to make sure that you're not getting any water penetration when you're not around.
And the other part to think about is not just the seals. When your slide out has to come in and out, there's a mechanism. There's like a gear assembly for it to slide in and out. And I, just by having a good relationship with the dealer, was able to ask a couple of questions. I said, I got this sound, and I happened to be there. And he's like, you probably just need to lube that up a little bit just to let it come in and out. That took away the sound that we were hearing. Probably, just one of the things you learn about over the years of experience, and we just want to share with you. I know Melina, it's like, Dan, it doesn't sound good. And I'm like, oh man, like, this is not what we want. Nobody wants their slide out to get stuck. Was not a big problem. Like, we're talking like less than $50. And it's something you can do yourself.
Well, it's essentially a different version of the same product you would put on the seals. It's a can that you're spraying on your slide mechanism, the chains or whatever that's throwing it in and out to protect it.
Yeah, and each one of those cans is like, what, $15-$20.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of say you got a 2-figure repair cost. I think the next one, I think these two are really important. So if your trailer has electric brakes, it's a good idea to go in and get your electric brakes adjusted and checked. And so the first time we had this done, it cost us $120. The brakes didn't feel right. They didn't sound right. I had them checked out. They did an adjustment. It was a normal maintenance cost, same way you would get like the oil changed on your car. I'm going to go out on a limb and say nobody ever talks about this around the campfire, which makes me think most people probably don't do it, but it tows a lot better. You feel better about the safety and stopping. So it's something that you should have done regularly. And we do a lot of miles, right? So we need to have it done a little bit more frequently. We had it done this summer. It was free. It was free because we paid $700 to get new tires. Mm-hmm. So we paid $700 to get new tires. So you're like, well, how often do I change my tires? Well, that's a bit like, how long is a piece of string, right? You can go on Google and they say tires should last you 5 to 7 years for an RV, but hey, that's dependent on a lot of factors. How often do you tow? Do you rotate your tires? Like, what kind of road are you on? All of those things matter. So the most important thing is, like, a couple of times a year, go out there and check your tires. And I don't mean like make sure they're not flat. Like, get down and run your hand along the backside, make sure you're not feeling anything weird on the outside, make sure there's no cracking, all of those kind of things to take care of your tires. Now, when I say it cost us $700 for new tires, we have 4 tires. So if you only have 2 tires, I'd say like divide that by half and you'll get a rough ballpark. But again, $700 for tires still feels like it's less expensive than tires for your tow vehicle, right? So maybe don't dodge that cost because it's a safety issue as well.
Yeah, but I would say realistically, like, we did keep the original tires that came with the trailer on for a little bit, but we replaced them pretty darn quick with some high quality tires. And I would say, what are we on, our third or fourth set.
So this will be our third set of tires. So we have the tires that the trailer came with.
Yeah.
We did a replacement of tires, and then we got the tires done this summer. Now, keeping in mind, we've done trip to Florida, trip to Santa Monica, Myrtle Beach, bunch of weekend trips, and then a trip out to Western Canada.
Yeah,
in those like 3 sets of tires.
Yeah, and on this one trailer, 3 sets of tires, like we're 30,000 plus kilometers, I would say.
Yeah, so we've put a lot of, the tires didn't owe us anything. I think probably we left the first set on a little bit too long, but hey, you're learning from our mistakes. I got a flat tire. Fortunately, I literally got the flat tire in front of our house.
Yeah.
Right. We brought the trailer home to pack it up, and the tire went flat. So that was an easy fix. It wasn't done at the side of the road. So, but again, if you take care of your tires, there's less of a chance you're going to get flats or blowouts. Not guaranteed, but you're also going to notice that the trailer tows a lot better.
Yeah.
The other thing I think probably people don't often think about getting done. I know people probably do this a little bit more often. They probably do it a little bit more often than getting their electric brakes done, is get your bearings serviced. So have somebody go in, inspect the bearings, repack them with grease, make sure that they're properly lubricated. And why this is important is, like, you've got your bearing and you've got your electric brakes and you've got your tire, and those kind of 3 things all work together, and you need to maintain them, because if you don't maintain your bearing, you could blow a bearing and then you've got a much more serious problem at the side of the highway. And it's probably not something that, CAA or roadside assistance is going to be able to easily handle. So we got all of that done. Bearings cost us $500. That's because we had 4 tires. A lot of people do this themselves. I've kind of looked into it now. I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable doing it myself now that I've kind of been in there and taken things apart. And I'll kind of get to that story. But if you've never done it, you're crunched on time. It's the beginning of the season. This is a perfect, like, batched up thing where if you're listening to this in March, phone your dealer and say, hey, I'm going to get my trailer out of storage and I'm going to have it for May. Is there a time you can come in, take a look at my tires, adjust my brakes, and do my bearings? All in one shot. They'll get it done. You go and you pick it up and you hit the road running. When I picked up the trailer from new tires, brakes adjusted, and the bearings done, like, it noticeably towed a lot better, and it was nice to have it towing a lot better. Now you're wondering, why do I feel like I can change the bearings myself now? Well, during our trip, when we came back from Key West, we got home, there's a loud grinding side sound, something isn't right. Lo and behold, we've blown a bearing. So I had to go to the place where we store the trailer. It wasn't safe to tow, so I couldn't even take it 50 kilometers just to, like, have a warranty job done. So I phoned the service technician, said, like, this is the problem. He's like, jack up the tire, how much movement is in it? I'm like, dude, I can't tow this. And he's like, okay, if you take it off, I will give you a new hub, all packed with grease. You can put it on yourself, tighten up your tire, bring it in. We'll get the lug nuts torqued and you'll be fine. In the process of me doing all that, and it only probably took of, like, actual maintenance time of taking this stuff off, like, an hour or 2, not a lot of time, is my point. I've handled it enough that I feel comfortable that I could do this myself.
What Dan is failing to mention is that grinding sound is pretty distinctive. And when I suggested that it could possibly be the bearing,
I thought it was maybe the brakes.
Yeah. It was, no. That's not the bearing. That's not the bearing. Lo and behold, we get out of the trailer. And the sound was, like, we were back in Ontario when the sound started. And we had a cursory look at the trailer. But I think you were looking more towards a brake issue rather than a bearing issue. So it did get driven on a little bit. So we were a little bit worried that some damage had been done. Luckily, and I touch wood here, like, all of the time so far that we've had kind of catastrophe strike, it's been okay. But I think, reasonably speaking, that might have been an example where we would have had to stop on the road and find another solution.
Yeah, like, if it had been 2 or 3 days earlier, it would have been a Sunday. We would have been, like, trying to find a hotel, get a tow truck, would have been different.
Yeah.
Am I happy that we had the bearings done and we had the problem? No. It didn't cost me extra money to have that done because they did it all under warranty. Of course, I had to do the work because, for obvious reasons, is we couldn't tow the trailer. But point being, hey, had a good relationship with the dealer. They didn't give me a hard time. They gave me advice over the phone. I feel more comfortable about it because we've talked about this a couple times.
Yeah.
You get your your confidence through adversity. So
Yeah.
hey, if you walk away from nothing from this, just learn from our mistakes. Right? So we're new at this. We just want you to have that information.
Yeah.
One of our first repairs was the water pump. So we were in a campground for the weekend. We had some friends with us. I think the girls were in a dance competition.
Yeah.
We're just in a provincial park and there's water running out the bottom of it. Water all over the place, kind of in the utility areas. Certainly was a big letdown, but it didn't spoil our weekend. We have a jug that we have for water anyways. So we kind of improvised, had a good weekend all the same, but we had to get the water pump done. This cost is a bit dated. I pulled the receipt. It cost us $165.
That was a number of years ago.
But that's like 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. I think 2016. So obviously a number of years ago. So maybe the price has gone up a little bit. But here's the good takeaway. We haven't had a problem since, right?
Again, knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Let's hope we're not here in September, me telling you we got our next water pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I'm happy to have them change the water pump. Could I probably do it? Yeah, but it means like I gotta like lay on my belly on top of the bed and do some gymnastics to get the whole thing in there. So all things being equal, I was happy to have them do that.
Can we talk about this for a minute? Because you have said 3 times, and I think it's really, really important. I probably could have done it myself, but we just paid to have it done. I probably could have done it myself. And winterization is one of them. Like, we pay to have our trailer winterized. But I think it's important. Like, everybody says that, with this asterisk of shame, where it's perfectly okay, even as a seasoned RVer, to get the dealership to do maintenance on your trailer. There's always this constant undertone, and I see it a lot on Facebook groups and trailer forums where it's oh, well, if you don't do every aspect of every part of trailer maintenance yourself, you're not a real RVer. And I just want to say right now, it is perfectly fine to pay for the dealer to have things done to your trailer. It is perfectly fine to do them yourselves. If somebody can't crawl up on the roof, it's okay. Get somebody to come and redo all of your roof seals. There is no right way to RV, and we say this a lot, but I think it needs to be said from a maintenance perspective, because there's always this thread of oh, you're lesser than if you do certain things or have somebody else do certain things. And I just want to say, totally not the case. Do what you're comfortable with, do what makes you happy, and there is no wrong answer at the end of the day. It's all about making sure that your rig is safe and secure and available when you want to use it.
Yeah, and I think what I would like people to get is just be confident to have an educated conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to change the pump on your truck or your minivan, so why would you maybe necessarily be expected to do it here? But let's have an educated conversation so you can ask some questions. So, hey, if it does happen to you in the campground in the middle of the weekend, what do I do? Well, you just shut off the water pump and you mop up the mess, right? In that particular instance, but just enough to have an educated conversation with somebody about the problem. I've had to do this one a couple of times. So we had a pop-up camper. The propane hose started leaking. I repaired that one myself. That was so long ago, I don't even remember what it costs. The last time we had to have the propane fixed on the trailer, what had happened is funny enough, it seems to be in the summer when this happens, or the spring when we're getting ready for the summer. I was getting the trailer ready, summarizing it really, and I could smell propane, and I'm like, oh, this is not good. So, you take the cover off, you disconnect everything, you turn the tanks off, you let it air out. Maybe I didn't have something connected right, hooked it all back. Oh, this is bad. So we very clearly had a propane leak. You could smell it. So I went in, it cost us $80 for the propane regulator, $110 for a leak test. It cost $65 to have it installed. I think this is a good one. Go get somebody to do this, especially with a much more complicated trailer, because you don't want to be messing around with propane and something combustible and have an inadvertent leak because you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you kind of, I was happy to do it. I was happy to have them do it because, keeping the marriage together is priceless, right? Because I'm sure you are more comfortable knowing that a proper service technician did it, not me kind of jimmying something together, telling you to be okay.
Yeah. Well, especially when you want to go to bed and wake up the next morning.
Yeah. So listen, there's another one. And then last couple of ones here. This price is going to be all over the place. So the deep cycle battery, we have one battery on our trailer. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. We
Mm-hmm.
have a standard, like, bottom of the line Canadian Tire deep cycle battery that's been in there for a couple of years. It does the job. We take it out every winter. We keep it charged up. We take care of it. It will not last forever. The price right now on Canadian Tire is about $170 for that, and the price goes up because there are people that have like really, really fancy batteries. We do not, but you know that your starting point is going to be like $170 plus tax and maybe some environmental fees. So that one's pretty straightforward. You probably can do that one yourself. You can take your battery into Canadian Tire or an auto parts place and they'll test it, but that just gives you an idea. And then the last thing we've had done is an electric RV jack. Um, that one went on us in Drumheller, right?
Yeah.
We kind of, there was some grinding and it wasn't sounding right. I actually thought it was the battery, to be honest with you. We eventually reached the point where like it conked out and it seized
Mm-hmm.
up. And I don't recall, I think we got it off the truck, but we didn't level perfectly because we knew we had to get it back onto the truck.
Yeah. And to get it onto the truck, we had to get the kids and myself, I think, to stand on the bumper to like lower the back end of the truck enough just to fit it underneath.
Just a hair, just like
Yeah, where the jack was because it had fully seized. Like we were manually turning the jack, but it would not go anymore.
yeah. So
It would go
you're
down, but it wouldn't go up anymore.
Yeah, so your jack probably has a manual override. Even our manual override conked out. We were in Drumheller, we were in a campsite, we were there. We were there for 2 or 3 days. So another example of like, hey, it didn't kill our trip to Drumheller. It took a few hours out when we finally did get the repair done, but it felt like it could be catastrophe, but it wasn't.
Funny enough, nobody in Drumheller stocks them. If you care, we did call a mobile RV tech. He was not available. Told us a couple of stores in town to try, so we went to like the Napa or whatever, like the auto
Yeah.
parts store, and I don't even think there's a Canadian Tire there. We went to a couple of places. Maybe there is a Canadian Tire. I can't
Yeah,
remember. We went to two places. None of them had it, so we managed to jimmy it together and drive to Calgary.
yeah, we drove to Calgary, we got it fixed. The RV tech was great. He still gave us a little bit of information. We phoned ahead to a dealer because by this point, like, we're on the road. He's like, I cannot put this thing in for you. Like, I do not have time. I have one, but like, I do not have a technician, but you're more than welcome to do it yourself in the parking lot. So interestingly, I timed myself. I didn't tell anybody that I was timing myself because I didn't want, I didn't need pressure from the back seat. From the minute we pulled into their parking lot till we walked out of their parking lot, it was an hour to do the whole thing. That included taking the bikes off the bike rack, just the way that we have our bikes set up on the trailer. So really, it's only like 2 or 3 wires, 3 bolts. We got it done and we were out. Felt like that's the kind of thing where you think maybe catastrophe could strike, but it took like what, a couple hours out of our day.
Yeah, the only negative there, I think it was 10 degrees that day, so it was a little chilly.
Yeah, it was a little chilly. It was windy. I think maybe the rain was rolling in. Like, but all things being equal,
Yeah.
like, I know this isn't everything that could break in your trailer, but like, that's what, 10 years of experience and what it cost us. Keep in mind, like, I've given you the price in Canadian dollars. I've given you the price in parts. Your dealer's probably going to have like a shop rate to, if they're going to do an installation. Remember, I talked about having a good relationship with them. As much as you can batch things up. Like, if you got a flat tire, there's nothing you can do about it, but if there's like an upgrade or some routine maintenance, put it in the spring, put it in the fall. That'll help keep your costs down. A lot of these things don't take a lot of time to do, especially if they know what they're doing. And then, like Melina quite rightly points out, it's okay to have them do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I just would say, manage your expectations and their expectations about when you really need the work done. Like, if you're really going away on that big, like, once in a lifetime vacation and something happened like unexpectedly, then that's one thing. But if you're not going away for 2 or 3 weeks, then just tell them you're not going away for 2 or 3 weeks and don't put them under pressure. They'll squeeze you in when they can get you in around a bunch of other jobs because I have a little bit of experience on another part of my life working with RV dealerships, and there are times where they're really busy. They got to prep trailers for delivery. Those things can take upwards of 6 hours. So sometimes they can kind of just put you into a little hole in their day and make it work a little bit easier. So I think that's everything.
No, there's one more thing that's broken, and Dan hasn't mentioned it because we actually haven't fixed it, and that is the rope lights that are on our awning. They went probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and we just haven't fixed them because, I mean, they're a nice to have, but the awning works. It's an electric awning, fine. But do we really need the ritzy lights? Like, well, it's one of those, like, we'll get to it when we get to it. We just haven't got to it.
I feel like the solution is going to be like some indoor outdoor patio lights that we can kind of like string up like Christmas lights with an extension cord, and
Yeah,
maybe it'll look a little Griswold. But you are right. I do mean to like do that all the time, and it never seems to get done.
it's
But
fine.
that's like,
But if we're counting over 10 years, like what has actually broken, like that's probably the extent of it. And I think I would probably take this minute to say there's a lot of things that haven't broken because we've maintained them, right? Like, so like, do not neglect cleaning your roof. Don't neglect doing your roof seals and your window seals and all of the caulking along, or the lap sealant all over the rest of all of the seams of your trailer. Make sure that you are, you know,
just keep it clean, really. Like, I
yeah,
think what happens is when you go in and you clean your trailer, whether it's inside or outside, that forces you to get into the nooks and crannies and see if there's something wrong there or
mm-hmm.
something like that. Like, every once in a while, I unscrew the vents for the heater and just kind of vacuum them out and take the crud out, and
The air conditioner filters and things like
yeah.
that. But I think the point is, it's really easy to like ignore the fact that you might have one or two skylights on your roof until they start leaking, right? And go, oh yeah, like we were supposed to redo those seals at the top, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's probably some wise ounce of prevention saves you something. I can't remember,
ounce
but
of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
yeah,
Yeah, we got it.
throw it in the comments. So did you want to talk about like what the 2025 season looks for us?
Yeah, I'm super excited. So it's not going to sound like a lot of trips, but it's a lot of nights. So we've got our regular round of camping. We've got our regular round of just, RV Canucks summer season. And then we've got our 2025 Grand Tour, which, last year was Key West. The year before that was Banff.
Yep, we've done Myrtle Beach. We've done Route 66.
We have decided, for obvious reasons, to stay within Canada this year, and we are very, very excited that we are going to be going out to PEI and Nova Scotia. Would love to include, Newfoundland. I guess we're traversing through New Brunswick, so does that count? I don't know. Well, we are staying overnight in New Brunswick, so that should count. But unfortunately, we won't get out to Newfoundland this time, just because of the timeline that we have. But Isla has a dance competition in Ottawa, and then we are kind of booking it right from Ottawa straight out east. So we are very excited to do that. That is going to be in the month of July. We are starting off with a shakedown trip in April, to be determined where we are going. But April is when we usually do our yearly shakedown trip. In May, we are up to Inverhuron. In June, Dan has a race that he's looking at, a foot race that he's looking at it doing. So we might do a trip with that. And then we are also going to be doing some harvest hosts this year. So I think June we'll probably see at least one or two of those on a weekend, just to kind of go out and see some cool things. I can't actually see that list over there. What else have we got, Dan?
Well, so in July we're going to have the Grand Tour.
Yep.
So we're going to be in Ottawa, not necessarily using the trailer, but we'll bring the trailer with us. If you're not from like Ontario or you're not familiar with the geography, it's what, 5, 6? No, it's like with the trail, it's going to be 6 or 7 hours to get to Ottawa.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to avoid is going to Ottawa, coming back here, and then going right back down the same road that we just traveled on. So we'll kind of work and do some stuff in Ottawa with the dance competition, and then we'll head on out to the Maritimes, Atlantic Canada. So that's probably going to chew up most of July, to be honest with you. It's probably at least a 2-week trip for us. And then August, we've got some festival camping, the Highland Games, another dance competition. That's always a fun one. So last year we did not get the best campsite. That's my fault. Sorry, everybody.
I think we all forgot that camping opened up.
Well, we all forgot that camping opened up, and we had to take what we could get, except when I finally did take what we could get, I neglected to see that there was no water hookup.
Yeah, which was fine.
Just power.
Actually,
there was no power either.
No, there was no power, no water, but it's a weekend. Yeah. And to be quite honest, this particular festival is very, very close to our home, so we can go home if we need to. And at the end of August, Labor Day, we will be doing Labor Day on Lake Huron. One of these nice provincial parks. Where are we? Over here. If you're looking on video, I'm pointing to our map of the Ontario provincial parks. So one of those ones we're not exactly sure, but it's I should say Labor Day weekend. It's not. It's like the week heading up to Labor Day weekend, because Labor Day weekend is so busy. So we prefer to take 1 or 2 days throughout the week just to end the summer. And I think everybody finds that really relaxing. In September, we are doing some camping with some good friends, just up in Alliston, and that's Alliston, Ontario. And then October, we will do our wrap-up trip, usually around Thanksgiving, if not Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, we try to fit that one in. Fiona works, and so we try to do something where she can still go to work but spend time with the family. So we'll kind of play that one by ear when we get to it. But like, it's a lot of nights, I think, just not as many trips or different parks. But I'm really excited to try out the Harvest Host.
Yeah.
And get out to the Maritimes in Atlantic Canada.
And Dan and the girls, I think we're looking at taking a boondocking trip this summer.
Yeah. So there's been some chatter amongst me and the kids. I think we're probably going to head up to the Temagami area. I've done a little bit of scouting. I got this big fancy map. I kind of know where I want to go, do a little bit of fishing, have a little bit of fun, just like literally on Crown land camping with the trailer. So I'm excited to do that. We'll fit that one in based on like school schedule and how good the fish are biting. Really, it's about catching fish. Like, let's be honest with ourselves.
And I will be staying back to do what I did last time you went up and did a trip, was work on Sally. And if you are new to us, you have no idea who Sally is or what Sally is, because it's been a long time. Sally is our 1964 Glendale Glendette, kind of a canned ham trailer. It's a passion project of ours that's been going on since COVID. I am bound and determined that Sally is going to get finished this year. I would say Sally's probably 50%, 55% done right now. But the last time Dan went away, I went at it all weekend and I got a lot done. So most of the framing is done. And hopefully by the time Dan gets back from this trip this summer, it will be at least have some sheathing and some insulation. That would be helpful. Yeah. Oh no, you got to run the wires. I'll get some stuff done.
She's gonna get the hardest part done.
Yeah.
And we're still gonna be married at the end of it, so that's a bonus.
Which is fair. Sometimes we have found out Sally is a solo project.
Sometimes it's a pairs project. You learn all the time, don't you?
Yep.
So I think that kind of wraps everything up. No?
Yep. And I think we are going to be entering a couple of episodes starting in a couple of weeks, where we are going to start comparing some of our favorite Ontario provincial parks. And it's kind of like a battle of the parks, versus, this park versus that park, and our verdict on the end. Because there are some that are really close together, really similar in tone and in nature. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's like this is the last nerdy one for a while, and we'll get into like Battle of the Parks. I mean, I'll still need my glasses because I can't see past my nose without them, but we'll get into some cool, fun stuff, I think.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been great chatting, and hopefully this gives you a little bit more information.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.